Okay, I just ran the high voltage cables to the motor controller, which is right here, and the key switch interlock wire, which is very small, and I'm literally ready to try and turn the motor right now. Please feed the YouTube algorithm by giving the video a like. If you want to see more like this, click subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of new videos. If you want to chip in on my expenses, I now have Patreon and YouTube memberships. This is hopefully my latest revision of the wiring diagram. Everything has been tested except the key switch system, which involves the AVC charging controller and the pot box relay and the pot box switch and the pot box throttle, making sure that the proper voltage is getting here to the motor. So let's raise the car up and do a few tests and then try and spin the motor. 12 volt system just got powered up, waiting for the V2 contactors. You can do it. There's one. Pre-charge. And good. No smoke, no fire that I can see. We should have full pack voltage going to the motor controller terminals right now. So let me raise this up and we'll test it out. And yes, we have 132 volts. Full pack voltage at the motor controller. So now it's just a matter of pushing this throttle control, and what that's going to do is there's a switch at the top. When the pot box arm moves, that switch will close, which will engage a relay, which will send 12 volts to that small pin right there, enabling the motor controller. And then as I push this lever, which is connected to the go pedal, that will send the signal on another pin to the motor controller to start feeding it power. All right. This is it, folks. 3, 2, 1. I heard a click. Oh, that's the switch in there is clicking, but I'm not getting any movement on the motor. Not surprising. Well, I may have forgotten a very crucial item, and that is another interlock to make the motor spin is, of course, turning the ignition key to the on position. That's the switched 12 volts that goes back to the rear box right here, which allows everything else to engage in the other interlocks. And so I got to go turn the key. But then I think I'd got to hook up one more wire. There's always something. Okay, after a not so short recess to work out one more 12 volt wiring problem, this bane of my existence, and there's Bane as in Batman, the guy who wanted to blow up New York City. I have no control over the 12 volt system, and I have to constantly figure out where every old bloody wire goes. Anyway, so the main battery pack is enabled. We have 132 volts. 12 volts is on. The ignition key is turned on. The only thing stopping the motor from spinning is me pushing this to simulate the throttle. The switch here, framing. The switch here should click, which should make a relay click, which should enable the enable pin on the motor over there. Whatever happens, I'm going home because it's 7 o'clock at night and I'm really tired and I don't want to make any mistakes. So here we go. No, still no motor spin. So, I betcha it's the interlock relay. So I gotta chase that down. Anyway, good night. All right, it's the next morning. I am refreshed and ready to go. So this is the signal right here that goes to the motor controller. When this signal goes to 12 volts, the motor is engaged. It's controlled by this relay. The switch in the pot box will close the relay, sending 12 volts up here. And it gets 12 volts if we're not charging. This signal is good. It's 12 volts right now, so we are not charging. But when I pull the throttle, that value doesn't change. Here's my throttle right here that I've hooked up to the spring in the pot box. So when I pull it, nothing happens. And that's essentially floating voltage, negative 1.1. It's floating. This should go to plus 12 when I pull that. So that means my switched 12 volts into the pot box switch and back to the coil is not getting there. So this is what's holding up spinning the motor right now. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to pull the throttle and we're getting 12 volts. The motor should be happy. So that's entirely inside the motor controller right now. I need to put the voltmeter on that signal and see if it's 12 volts. Okay, hold on. Let's test the pot box. I'm gonna pull the throttle right here. This should go to 12 volts as soon as the switch connects. And it does. So the controller is getting its 12 volt enable signal, but the motor's not spinning. All right, this means either the pot box voltage signal is not correctly getting from here to here and those two back pins, or I've wired the motor in incorrectly after I swapped all those orange cables, but I did them one by one. Or the controller is fried. That would be a very, very bad day. I'm running out of things to test. I've put the meter on the terminals coming in from the pot box. It's a 0 to 5,000 ohm potentiometer. And as I push the potentiometer, we're going from 2.1 ohms. There's 1K, 2K, 3K, 4K, 5K. So that's delivering exactly what it wants. So we have pack voltage here that's working. We have an enable signal here that's working. We have the pot box input that's working. That means either the battery terminals are wired wrong or the motor controller is fried. Let me double check the wiring. Well, that's bad news. All the wiring between the motor and the controller checks out to the plans on the original kit, although it doesn't match what Curtis says to do the hookup because it never uses A2. This terminal is not used in the original. But what I'm going to do is hook up 12 volts to the motor and just see if it spins. That will remove one issue, and then it becomes the controller, and see if I can figure out how to diagnose that.
Put it on, and let's just use this as the power supply. I'll hold this. Yeah. Put this in. Yeah, go ahead and give it some. Let's see. Oh! Needed more power. Yep.
Looks like the clutch is engaged a little bit.
It's always gonna.
But we still had a problem where pushing the pot box would not make the controller work. And the logic in the manual, it says anything over 8 volts DC will enable the controller to spin the motor. It just wasn't working, and I had 12 volts on that terminal. So I thought, well, in the manual for the controller, it shows it, the keyboard or the switch interrupt is going to pack voltage, 132 volts in our case. So I disconnected the relay. I made a jumper straight from pack voltage to there, and look what happens. It works. So the manual was lying. You need something over 12 volts and approaching battery pack voltage level for it to actually run. So I need to do a slight modification of where the source voltage comes through for that relay logic, and I can drive the car. Yeehaw! 3.5 months, and I can spin this motor. Fantastic. Just before we wrap up, I want to thank my Patreons, Peter Bouvier and Puppy, for their support. We also just popped over 2,000 subscribers, which is quite a nice milestone for my little channel. All support is greatly appreciated. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if so, please give it a thumbs up. I see that 81% of the viewers aren't subscribed. Please do, as it does help the YouTube algorithm. Take care and see you next time.